All right, we are back on Morning Line, a special edition, as we honor this morning the memory of Officer John Anderson. We just a few moments ago showed you the motorcade making its way from the funeral home in Madison to the Cornerstone Church there in Madison, where visitation is set to begin from 9 to 11:30. Then at 1 o'clock there will be the funeral for Officer Anderson, and we will be covering that live for you on all platforms, as that does again begin at 1 o'clock. And we're taking your phone calls, questions, comments about this, and we're streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com as well as on the Plus. And people posting here on our streaming live, and this from Melissa, and I thought it's worth a read. She says, and I'm going to read her post. I married a police officer, and you never really know the sacrifice that these men and women give to protect us, our homes, our children, until you see them come home and wake you up with tears in their eyes because of what they have seen during their shift. The fear that they experience trying to protect their own family because they see darkness firsthand of this world that we do not always see. Yet they get up and go the next day because they took an oath to protect and serve us. The family of an officer also gives their lives for us, so we please pray for this wife, mother, and her children who have suffered a great loss. Thank you, Officer Anderson, for giving this ultimate sacrifice. The crown awaits you in heaven. Very well said. It's true. We cannot forget the sacrifice. That's why we take moments like this to observe just, a loss in the line of duty because of what these men and women do. Let's go next to Wally. Wally, good morning. Hi, Wally.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, sir.
I got a couple of questions.
Okay.
The attorney for Miss Brown, is he a public defender?
I'm not certain, but I believe so. It's a juvenile court public defender probably at this point, but I'm not absolutely certain. I think he came on fairly quick, so I don't know the family would have had time to hire an attorney, and I don't know whether they're indigent or not, but I believe probably initially this was someone appointed by the court, but I'll try to confirm that.
Well, they said he's represented her before.
That's correct. Yeah, you heard him say that he represented her in some prior juvenile entanglements, and we don't know the nature of those. So, yeah, that's possible then that he was hired by the family and they've hired him again. So, again, I'm not certain about that.
Well, who is the judge hearing the case?
Well, it'll be the juvenile court judge here in Davidson County, and she's the one that makes all these rulings. What is your point on that?
I just wondered what her name was.
Okay, and it's oh, hang on, why? It's on the tip of my tongue. I know her. I've met her before. I'm just spacing out. No, that's not it. Let's see, the juvenile court judge in Davidson County. What's that? Yeah, it's Judge Calloway. Judge Calloway. And Judge Calloway is the one who will decide, and she decides in all these cases whether or not someone gets bound over to adult court. Judge Sheila Calloway. And I'm sorry, and I know her. It's just I had a mental block. But yeah.
Well, my faith has been restored in our Attorney General here in Nashville for going to try her as an adult. I've been kind of down on him for a couple of other cases, but my faith has been restored in him.
Well, yeah, now remember, all he can do is ask. Judge Calloway will be the one that has to make the call. So there'll be an argument, from the DA about why she should be tried as an adult, and then there will be an argument from her defense attorney as to why she should stay in juvenile court. And make no mistake, that is a huge decision. This judge, the call here is going to be the difference between, if this teen is convicted, between her spending maybe a few months behind bars and then maybe having some kind of controlled probation later, and possibly years if she's convicted in adult court. Huge difference on what this judge decides. And I suspect she'll be feeling a lot of pressure on how to rule on this, but she'll go with what she thinks is best. And certainly we'll follow this, and we will let you know what she decides. Today, though, is a detention hearing for the 17-year-old to determine whether or not she remains incarcerated as this case moves forward. And I would imagine she will remain incarcerated, but you never know. Again, that is the judge's call. Let's go next to Tony. Tony, good morning. Hi, Tony.
Hello, Nick. How are you doing, buddy?
That's a rough morning.
This is such a senseless death. I mean, y'all done touched on quite a bit of what I was going to touch on and say, and it's just a senseless death that, as you've covered the bases of what transpired, and with her technically stealing her aunt's car. Her aunt didn't know it was gone. She's asleep. And, she stole it sometime during the wee hours. The accident happened at 3:05 a.m. and but she steals her aunt's car. Her aunt, of course, don't know it's gone, so there's no reported stolen vehicle. And here's an officer who could have gone either way, you know, him being this close to that transpiring of the DUI officer who was going to pursue her, but called off the pursuit. And, you know, and he's going to go help another officer with another situation, and it's such a senseless death. And at the same time, these teenagers and what's going on with the teenage community now and these young adults. You know, Nick, I thought of this, and I don't want to bring sports into this thing, but just touching on something. Just a few weeks ago, we see a bunch of young men at Vanderbilt that we're all talking about how great this 18-year-old Kumar Rocker did and where he is in his life. And then we have a 17-year-old girl here out doing what she's doing, kills a police officer, and she not only destroyed and wrecked his life and his son's life for years to come, but hers and her 18-year-old friend who is still laying over there at Vanderbilt Hospital, you know, who was just barely clinging to life.
No, you make a great point. There's a tragedy all around here, and that's worth mentioning. There was an 18-year-old passenger in her vehicle that's in critical condition still at Vanderbilt Hospital. And, you know, it's a good point here that you make about juvenile crime. And Joe talked on it, one of the earlier callers, about, you know, what's going on with this. Look, we've seen plenty of young crime with kids now, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, really young. This is a 17-year-old, okay? She, for all intents and purposes, is almost an adult at 18, okay? And he's right. The vehicle was taken. You heard her attorney say that she's devastated by this and that it was just a kind of a youthful prank that got out of control, which I think, you know, a lot of people are going to disagree with that. It went way out of control with tragic circumstances resulting. But, yeah, blaming the parents, I mean, at this point, she's basically an adult, 17, and off doing these types of things. That's why it's my belief, based on prior things, if this had happened and she was maybe a 14-year-old, I'm not so sure that this case would be bound over to adult court. It could still, of course, don't get me wrong. But she's 17 and apparently has some priors in juvie. I will be stunned if this case is not bound over to adult court. Again, that will be Judge Calloway's decision, and she'll look at various factors. But this is not some 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old that stole a car and did this. This is a 17-year-old who's almost 18, which would make her an adult anyway, and having a result like this. All right. Keep in mind, too, folks, a lot of people obviously very upset about this. This is not a murder case, all right? There's no doubt that what she did was horrible, and that's why she's charged with vehicular homicide. She did not intend to kill this police officer. She didn't. Now, she should have known that what she was doing was very dangerous and could result in something very bad happening, but there was not an intent to kill this officer. So that's why it is vehicular homicide and not being charged with, say, for instance, first or second degree murder. All right, let's go next to, I believe, Rob. Rob, good morning. Hi, Rob.
Hey, good morning, Nick. I got a comment and a quick question. First of all, my condolences go out to the family, and they'll be on my mind, thoughts, prayers all day. I lost my father at a young age. I was a little older than this man's little boy, but this is going to stick with him the rest of his life. He's going to always wonder about his dad.
Sure. And
it's sad. But second of all, you know, I'd like to know, where's the parents in all these, not just this team's actions, but, you know, all the teams, the stuff that we've heard coming out of Nashville with these teenagers. Where's the parents at in all this? You know, I raised 5 kids myself, and you know, it's ridiculous that, and this girl was obviously a troubled child because she'd had several priors with juvie. And, you know, I just wonder, you know, what's going on with these parents? You know, if they know they have a troubled child, they ought to have keep a closer eye on these kids. I mean, it's ridiculous that, you know, she has destroyed that man's baby's life and his wife, his family.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. Here's the thing, and it's fair to ask where are the parents in some of these cases, and there can be various circumstances on this, but my point being is, at this point she's 17. And if she had priors and there were trouble with her back when she was younger, that's when the parents needed to get into her life and really take hold and try to get her on the straight and narrow, because before something really bad like this happens. Because by the time they're 17, if you don't address it at that point and they've been running wild to that point, I know many parents, once they turn 17, that are afraid of their own kids because they haven't done a good enough job disciplining them early on. And by the time they're 17, they're basically adults. They're not listening to them anymore, and actually scare some of the parents themselves. Now, I don't know the situation with this one, okay? I don't know what the story is with her mother, her father, what kind of involvement, does she have siblings, all of that we don't know, okay? I'm sure we'll learn more. A lot of that right now is, you know, shrouded because she's in juvenile court. We do know her name, okay? But you'll notice there's no mugshot available of her yet because she's still in the juvenile system. If and when she's transferred to adult court, that's when we'll get the mugshot. Now, she's going to make an appearance in court today. Cameras are not allowed, but we can be there to find out what's testified to, and we'll have more details on that later today. But that's the way it shakes out. By the time they're 17, if they haven't been dealt with prior to that, they're probably so far out of control. It's a tough thing to deal with at that point, even for parents. Not to say that the parents shouldn't have stepped in earlier, but again, case by case. And sometimes kids just run wild, and I don't know the answer to that, and we see it more and more. We'll take a break. When we come back, more as we continue our coverage. The memorial, let's not forget as we talk about the suspect, let's always remember the victim, Officer John Anderson. His memorial about to get underway, rather visitation about to get underway at Cornerstone Church in Madison, and then at 1 o'clock the memorial, which we will be covering live here on the News Channel 5 network. We'll take a break, be back with more of your comments and questions right after this.